computer? Excellent. So here we go. So let me start the class again. Welcome. And today's topic is going to be strategies of small and medium enterprises in foreign markets. And we're going to focus on small and medium enterprises because, as we discussed last class, small and medium enterprises are extremely important in economy, in global economy, and especially in European economy. They constitute a large number, the majority of all companies existing. And also these are the companies that often are started and led by young people nowadays. So not many people dream of working for corporations. Small and medium enterprises give you a lot of flexibility and also cater to current needs of the market. So let me start with this topic. And we're starting with the definition of what a small, micro, small, or medium enterprise actually is. Since your project is going to be based on a micro or small company, please remember that there are certain definitions, there are certain criteria that such a company has to meet. And the criteria typically focus on employment, turnover, and total balance sheet. For the purpose of the project, we will stick to the employment because this is typically a public data for SMEs. So I suggest that you put most emphasis into that. And micro companies are the ones that employ fewer than 10 people. So in Poland, for example, majority of those companies are people who are self-employed. So this is actually a company of one. But it could be a company that includes up to 10 employees. Small company is anything between 10 and 50. So 50 sounds like a decent number. Still, it is considered to be a small company, while medium company employs anything between 50 and 150 employees. So my suggestion is that for the sake of the project, you focus on those micro and small companies. And as you can see, there is also a monetary criteria, right? In terms of a turnover, micro companies cannot exceed 2 million euro, small 10 million euro, and medium companies 50 million euro, while the total balance sheet cannot exceed 43 euro for medium and the same amount of money for small and micro companies. There is an additional criteria for SMEs, and this is the definition of who the stakeholders are. And if you have a stakeholder that is a non-SME, which is a large company, it cannot exceed 25% of shares, 25% of profit, and 25% of the decision voice, which is the votes during shareholder meetings. So why are we focusing on this particular sector? As you can see on the figures provided here, SMEs actually provide the majority of all the subjects. In terms of employment, they employ 2/3 of the people in Europe. And in terms of the number, small and medium companies are actually 99% of all companies. So this is the majority of companies in Europe and worldwide as well, with regional differences. But that also means that they are numerous. They create 2/3 of the GDP. They employ roughly 2/3 of all the people, and they have a great input in terms of generating export. So that means that this is a very, let's say, dynamic sector. This is a sector that gives you a lot of power for decision making. And this is a sector that very often absorbs alumni from universities, from business schools, and so on. So that's why we are focusing on those. Also, another reason is that simply if you work for a large corporation, your decision-making power and your actual impact on what is happening is fairly limited. Strategies are planned long in advance, while for small and medium enterprises, there is much more agility, there is much more influence of each participant on the policies and the strategies and the decisions which are undertaken here. So what are the characteristics of small and medium enterprises? Well, there is a number of, let's say, things that differentiate them from large companies. First and foremost is the access to resources. Since we're talking about small, micro, small, and medium companies, that means that their resources and knowledge are typically more limited than with large companies. That is certainly sure for that is true for financial resources, but also in terms of knowledge, accumulated knowledge. The more people you have, the more expertise, the more actual knowledge, competences, and skills can be generated. While in smaller companies, it is usually limited simply by the sheer number of people employed. SMEs also have different approach to strategy and planning. They tend to be more flexible, more agile, and they plan in shorter terms. So large corporations can have plans for decades in advance. That of course depends on the industry, right? The more dynamic industry, the shorter the planning scope. But nevertheless, smaller companies definitely have more flexible strategies, more flexible approach to planning, shorter term, and that shows that gives them certain advantage when operating abroad. Then we have a difference in organizational structure. Smaller companies are by definition flatter, right? They don't have a big hierarchy. If you have 10 people, it is hard to have a steep hierarchy. It is typically flat. Everybody knows each other. So there are very many different connections and relations among people. SMEs are also typically more focused or more prone to taking risks, which sometimes results from the poor assessment of what's going on, lack of full information, but sometimes it comes from like this conviction that the risk taking is worth it. For large companies, you have to get a number of approvals. It gets long, it gets extended. Companies want to play it safe. So that process is definitely less pronounced. I mentioned several times flexibility and agility. That's definitely the asset. This is the benefit of the strength of small and medium companies. They also have, typically they will have difficulty in achieving economy of scale. Economy of scale basically means that the more you do, the more you produce, the more you are in business, the more effective, cost effective, and effort effective you become. With small companies, due to their typically small scale of operation, this is fairly difficult to obtain. However, it's not impossible. It's typically done when you specialize in a certain niche. Then your operation is small, but because it's a niche, you tend to achieve the economy of scale, and I'm going to give you examples of that in a moment. And finally, the last big difference, pronounced difference, is the sources of market information. SMEs tend to look for more, let's say, financially feasible sources of information. Large companies would commission big research and so on. SMEs would typically try and find information free of charge, publicly available, and currently with the development of the internet and also AI, this information is more and more accessible and more reliable. There are tools, and also you must know it because the companies that you proposed, many of them offer different AI platforms that help companies operate in this effective way. It's just a matter of price, right? And it's also scalable depending on the size of the company. So these are the characteristics. And now, what are the strategies that we're going to discuss? I'm going to present to you 5 different strategies. And for your project, I will ask you to find a company that will somehow relate to one of these strategies. Um, we'll see what's going to be your approach. So far, I saw some attempts at hidden champion, which would be ideal for the company. But of course, there are other options, and that's what I'm going to propose to you, and this is what I'm going to discuss with you today. So today's class is going to be structured in the following way. I am going to present to you all of these strategies, the principles, and so on. I'm going to show you some examples, and that's going to be the first part of the class. Then the second part, we're going to talk about international diversification strategy, so actually approaches to foreign markets. So that's the plan for today. And because everybody turned their cameras off, despite my request and despite our success last time, I'm going to ask you if you're ready for this. I need some feedback. I cannot talk to black windows. So tell me.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, we're
thank
ready.
you.
Yes.
Excellent. So today we are relying on voice. Do you want me to turn my camera off? Would that be convenient to you as well? Okay, so here we are. Okay, good. So let's begin. Let's start this conversation with hidden champions. This is a very interesting strategy, and this is the strategy that has been in detail described by Herman Simon. And you already saw the information, and you are familiar with the articles that I provided on the website in order to understand what the strategy is. So let me give you a brief outline so that we can later compare those strategies with another options for small and medium companies. This is a company that is typically small. It remains unknown to a wider public because it's specialized in a very, very precise niche. It has very special area of expertise. It's narrow but very deep. So that's what makes a hidden champion. In terms of international presence, hidden champions will prefer sequential market entry, which means that they will go like a waterfall. They will go market by market, slowly making the decision, collecting a lot of information, carefully selecting the market, and after they familiarize themselves with the market, then they move on and they expand to yet another market. What is important for hidden champions is that they own their brand. They have their own brand of the products. They do not provide anonymous contracting or anything like this. They are proud of the brand that they have. So this is also, that means that this is a fairly expensive strategy. All of you who have any contact with marketing, you know that having branded products, this is a commitment that you have to live up to. So hidden champion has their own brand, and they are highly competitive. They want to be a leader of the market. That's why they are called champions. And this is not only their wishes, it is actually their ability to be number one or number two in a particular market. That's what makes them hidden champion. So what are the principles of that strategy? Firstly, you want to aim to have a strong position at the domestic market. So you start with a domestic market and you make yourself at home, you make yourself successful, you already test your operations, and initially you don't really think much about international expansion. So you start with this strong position in the domestic market. Then what happens is you decide that at some point that you want to expand, and you have this very let's say, systematic scientific approach to assessment of attractiveness of foreign market. That means that this is not only your gut feeling that you say, oh, Italy is nice, why don't we go to Italy? It's that you actually look at different dimensions of the environment, you make a very educated decision based on data that you collect. So that is also going to be a part of your project later on. You will also be requested to make this very, very educated decision. They operate on a limited number of foreign markets, so they are not aiming for a worldwide presence. They want to have a few markets which are highly profitable, which are a perfect fit for what they do. They prefer direct exportation, which means that they don't look for domestic partners. They look for good partners which are already placed in the international market. So the selection of this foreign partner is a very important element of their internationalization strategy. After they decide to expand, they are focused on building strong brand in the foreign market. So they want to remain known with their own brand. They don't want to change it. They don't want to adapt it. They don't want to be merged with anything else. And when they offer the products, they offer what we call the special segmentation and targeting because they are focused on a niche. They offer products which are specialized, usually advanced for some reason, and this is followed up with narrow targeting. Their customers are not numerous, their customers are fairly limited in numbers, but they have these special requirements. And when it comes to marketing decisions regarding product, price, promotion, and place, hidden champions are keen on adjusting the marketing mix to foreign markets because foreign markets are important in their operations, and they will play with elements such as price, distribution, communication, and try to keep product relatively, let's say, not modified because that generates a lot of costs. So what are the advantages of this particular strategy over other strategies? Once we discuss all of them, you will see like that it all comes, all of these elements are, let's say, fairly interconnected. So first and foremost, this is the strategy that we consider to be ambitious. Ambitious because Hidden Champion wants to be a market leader. They don't want to be just any player. They want to be number one or number two in the world. Right? So that's a very ambitious goal, and this is not easy to achieve. They actually take advantage of all the characteristics of SMEs, such as agility, flexibility, risk-taking, flat structure, short planning, this adaptation skills that allow them to be successful internationally. And then they have full control over their product, the sales, the brand in the foreign market. They do not yield the decision-making power to anyone. When they have partners, they are actually partners, but not owners. Those companies remain key decision makers, and they have the biggest influence on the whole strategy that is employed. Their involvement in foreign markets grows typically gradually according with the Uppsala model. So it takes a long time before they are fully internationally present. Now, what are the disadvantages? Because there is, of course, there are some risks or issues connected with that strategy. So the first thing is time. It takes a lot of time. You have to be patient, and you have to collect a lot of information, and that is also fairly expensive. So time consuming, that's one of the limitations. Costs, that's the other limitation. And again, it comes from the strategy that is involved in the process of internationalization, but it also comes from the strategy in general. So having your own brand, having a product that is highly advanced, addressing a niche with very precise needs and expectations, so that all comes to pretty high costs. And then finally, last but not least, it is a risky strategy. Risky because you focus on a market niche, and as long as you're good enough, and as long as you can keep your strategic advantage, then you are still leader of the niche. But if a strong competitor enters the niche, then suddenly it gets pretty hot, right? I mean, your existence and your success, your profits are in danger, and you really have to undertake some decisive action. So let me present you with some examples of that strategy. I have selected only Polish companies. Some of them now have grown and they become large companies, but they started definitely small. And the first one is that what you can see on the screen. It is called Schultka, sport and fitness equipment. Schultka is the brand, and it is also the last name of the owner of the company. Have you ever heard about this company?
No.
Mm. Okay, so that means that it is hidden. So now let me show to you why do we consider that to be a champion in any champion. What they really specialize in doing are those multifunctional gym equipment machines. They are constructed in a very precise way. The company has many patents regarding how bits and parts of the machinery works, how the weight is distributed, how many functions can be performed. The strength of that product is that it is fairly large, but it can fit a home gym. The idea was that you don't have to go to the gym outside. You can do all the exercises at home, and you have this comprehensive gym machine back at home that is safe, that moves with ease, and so on and so on. So that's what the company does. How it all started. It started as it typically starts with many hidden champions. So there was a guy. His name was Schultka, and his son started to have health issues. He had problems with spine. He had to do some exercise. That was Poland, late 90s. So I don't know if there were any gyms available. Definitely, that was not en vogue to go to the gym. So this was very limited, and because of that, Schultka decided to create his own machine, right? The gym machine, and he tested that on his son. Then his friends found out they also liked to use the machine. He kept perfecting the machine, the operations. He obtained patents for the solutions. He was an engineer um, by education. And this is how he came up with the first machine that you can see in the top right corner. It's called Titan. It was very expensive, and he started his website in 1998, and he decided to offer his equipment via those websites. And actually, one of the first machines that he sold went to the US. So what happened next is a little bit of a history, because there was a guy, an American, who was he was, in his opinion, overweight. He needed to lose some weight. He was too shy to go to the gym. He purchased the machine, and then he reported on his progress. He was kind of like the first, probably one of the first influencers in this weird business. He posted online his progress. He lost about 20, I can see 26 kilo by using this machine. He got in shape, and he created the hype. He created the word of mouth for the machine. His blog was very successful. The machine became very successful, and suddenly people wanted to use it. So in the end, Schurtka operates in three countries. This is Poland, this is US, and this is China. So very diversified markets. He has partners there. The machines are expensive, but they are sold to individual customers who want to do all of this exercise at home. I expect that it must have been a hit during pandemic when people were confined to their homes. But that just proves that this is a typical path for a hidden champion. When you start with small operation, you become quite successful at the home market, and then you expand to a few international markets, and in this case it was USA and China. Interestingly, Schultka became quite rich, and he decided to expand his operations, and believe it or not, this is where he went. He started this Schultka furniture branch, and you can see that this is not an IKEA style furniture. This is the Baroque version of furniture. So also you can imagine that that goes to a very special group of customers, right? This is not everyone. I don't know how many of you would like to have furniture like that in your house, and how many of you could actually afford that, because it is quite expensive, and it seems to be more suitable for hotels and like residences, mansions, rather than regular houses. So that proves that whatever they do, this is a niche thing. This is limited to a particular group of customers with certain taste, certain need, and definitely the means to pay for it, right? So that's one of the hidden champions. Then I have another one, and this is a company that makes yachts. So those small boats that you can use on the sea and at the lakes. This is again a Polish company with an interesting history. In Poland, during communism, we used to have a big shipbuilding yard at the Baltic Sea in Gdańsk and Szczecin. And with the new economy, those shipyards were closed. They were no longer effective. So people were fired, and they had to kind of like find their life, start their life, the professional life from scratch. And the owners of that company, both it's a couple. They worked for this shipyard. They had a lot of expertise. Again, one of them was an engineer, and they decided to start their own company, which will manufacture, or that has been manufacturing, those small boats instead of big ships. They focus to the on small boats, on yachts, and they, because of their engineering skills, they patented several composite or composite how do you call that, the materials, right? So it is made of a special kind of material that combines carbon and polymer and stuff like that. So I'm not a technical person, and I cannot really provide you with that detail. But they came up with new materials that can be used, which are more durable, which are lighter and easier to form. So they could come up with designs which are quite luxury. And at that point, their boats, 95% of the production is sold to France, and basically Mediterranean area. So not many people in Poland actually buy it, because also we don't have that many nice places to actually use yachts. But the majority goes to our Western European partners. So this is another example of a company that is a hidden champion. Nobody really hears, nobody knows the name unless you are very much into yachting. But once you are, then you are familiar, because this is one of the top producers in the world in terms of yachting. This is another one. This is actually my favorite. This is a company that is called Motyl. Motyl in Polish means butterfly. Butterfly. You can see butterfly on this circle here on the left. Motyl again is a last name of the owner of the company. What you can see in the right bottom corner, this is the headquarters of the company. So it is actually a private house of a guy who again has some engineering skills. That seems to be a recurring theme here. So we have a person, we have an owner with the brains, we have the owner with knowledge, we have the owner with a very specialized expertise in a topic. And this guy manufactures polishing plates or polishing wheels. These are those small circle wheels. They are used for precise polishing, especially in jewelry and dentistry. So if you need a new tooth or if you need a dental procedure, chances are that your dentist might use this product. So it is very, let's say, niche product. This one is known for its excellent quality and durability and safety while used, as well as precision, which is especially appreciated by the jewelry business. If you work with precious stones, you want to be precise, so that no loss is created on the account of malfunction of equipment. And this guy, again, has many patents that allow him to create the plates, the polishing plates, which are very, very thin and very, very durable. In fact, he is repeatedly number one or number two in the world. There are two competitors which matter in the grand scheme of things. One of them is from the US, the other one is from China, and they fiercely compete with manufacturing these products, but each of them has a different set of advantages. Let's say the Americans claim that they focus on quality. The Chinese claim that they focus on affordability. The Poles claim that they focus on both, and the market is the judge of those claims. With Motel being typically listed as number one provider in the world. Okay, then we have more of those. Let me proceed to another one that I actually consider to be, well, both interesting and a little bit of funny. This is company that is called Plastex. Plastex makes has a very limited assortment of products because they make kayaks, and these are not any kayaks. These are the kayaks that are used for competitions. And competitions, that means that if you have a world championship or like any kind of regional championships, you need special kind of a kayak that will be fast, that will be light, that will be ergonomic, and this company manufactures this sport equipment. In fact, in Europe, there are only two companies that matter. One is Plastex, the other one is Nelo. This is a Portuguese company. Plastex is actually led by an Olympic participant from Poland. He used to be a kayaker. He knew what is needed. He knew what was the expected advantage of the equipment. So once he stopped actively competing, he started his company, and he uses his knowledge and also some technical expertise that he has. The company manufactures only 1,000 kayaks per year, so this is a very limited operation. They say that they don't need anything else. And interestingly, the only promotion activities that they undertake take place during championships during actual competitions. And according to what the owner of the company says, if a team that wins used their equipment, then they have plenty of orders, then they are safe and they are very successful. If this is the competitor's equipment that wins, then that means that competitor actually gets all the benefits of the market. So again, two major companies with a very small scale of operation, very niche product, and very specialized competences that they both have. Then we have the second strategy of small and medium enterprises, and this one is called cooperation. So the first one focused on this unique set of skills and individual presence, independent presence, maybe not individual. Cooperation strategy is different because that is going to involve many companies that decide to work together towards a common goal. So that will bring again some benefits and some limitations that we're going to discuss in a moment. So in terms of internationalization, they will also carefully select the markets. They will also move slowly. They will move sequentially. But the whole idea is that a number of companies, usually small companies, create some kind of an association, a cooperative, and they offer one product or one type of product with their own common or regional brand. So this is a branded product, but it's just one thing that they all manufacture, they all contribute. So what are the principles of that strategy? Well, it starts with what we call a horizontal integration of producers. So you're probably aware of integration aspects. Integration means that you connect, combine, and unify activities of companies in certain area. It can be horizontal, it can be vertical. Horizontal integration means that you integrate operations at the same level of value delivery chain. In this case, this is producers. So you have an association, a cooperation of producers of certain products. They decide to work together and they decide to have a brand. So this is a branded existence in the market, in the domestic market, and then they decide to use their production capabilities and expand to foreign markets. The idea is that internationalization decisions, the selection of foreign market, the actual negotiation process, and so on, is conducted by a representative of this association. So all of these companies, all of these manufacturers or producers that decide to create an association, they delegate the decision-making power to their representative in terms of all internationalizations process. So they have kind of like a delegate, right? They have a deputy. And this company or this unit is responsible for international operations. Producers focus on their domestic activities, while this representative company or unit deals with internationalization. So what are the advantages of that approach? Well, it is branded, so that's good. That means that you can have higher prices, that you have higher awareness, that your market presence is more, let's say, active and conscious. It is definitely less expensive than Hidden Champion. It is less expensive because you cooperate with other companies. That means that you share the costs, you share the risks, and you share the knowledge, you share the resources. So you are a part of a bigger structure, of a bigger organism, and that means that you don't have to own all of the resources, but you can tap into the collective resources of the association. Another advantage is that once you create an association, you avoid direct competition among partners. Different producers, different manufacturers no longer have to compete on a domestic market. They now suddenly play the same ball. They have the same goals, and they supplement each other rather than compete. There are, however, disadvantages. The first disadvantage is that this representing company, this unit that is responsible for internationalization, can take control of what is actually happening, because there is little communication, little everyday communication among all of the companies. They decide to trust this representing company, and well, it may lead to a situation that this company will make decisions which are not in the best interest of each individual company. They are in the interest of the whole association, but the control is kind of like um, beyond individual partners. The partners have lower flexibility. They have agreed to a certain strategy and they have to comply with association rules and demands. And this strategy works only for products which we consider to be homogeneous. Do you know what are the homogeneous products? Are you familiar with that term? Are you or are you not? Okay, so if you are, then it means that there is no need to explain that. So yeah, so it works only for homogeneous products. Let me show you the examples now. The first one is a French company. Because it's French, then I'm not going to really try and pronounce that well, because there must be some kind of a interesting twist. This is a dairy company. This is a company that manufactures things such as yogurt, cheese, milk, and so on. It started in 1964 with four producers creating an association. And the first product that they offered is this Yoplait yogurt. And you can see that the logo actually has some significance. The six pellets that you can see here on this flower, that symbolizes the six initial companies starting the whole association. And this one leaf, that means that this is the association. So I actually find it quite interesting and well, significant, right? That they wanted to acknowledge the beginning of the whole company with a logo that is used. So it started with six producers, but nowadays it is over 15,000 of producers which are associated in this Sodial company. They are a large producer of milk products, of dairy products. They cooperate with other large associations, with other large companies such as Dairy Crest in the UK, General Mills in the US, and they have different brands of products. Some of them are for the cheese, some of them are for milk. Candia is actually a brand of milk that tried to change the image of milk as a product. Milk is definitely kind of like a not sexy thing, like kids don't really like it, adults don't really drink it, and this company tried to make it more colorful, more accessible, more fun to drink, and to some extent they succeeded. So again, started with small six group of people, a small group of producers. Now it is over 15,000, so that's a large company. And when you look at the map, they are virtually present everywhere. I mean, like in every continent, they have now their own representatives or their company, even in the middle of the ocean here at the bottom left corner. So that means that this is now that has become a large successful company based on cooperation. Another example, and this is a Polish company, it's called Pol Fruit. So it's Pol like Polish, fruit like fruit, so we know what they do. And they basically they grow fruit. There are 40 partners. In total, they have 800 hectares of fields. That means that this is a lot of land to be used for farming. And they come up with something between 10 and 15,000 tons of export of apples. Poland is very well known for apples, of certain vegetables such as cauliflowers. They also produce or they farm a lot of berries, and this is exported to the east of Poland and also to the Great Britain, Sweden, Finland, so the Scandinavian countries, then the north, and Germany. And this is possible simply because they decided to join forces. And when you have 40 partners, that means that you can achieve this economy of scale, and that also means that you can that you can raise money for certain investments. And that brings us to the last example. This is only about the mushroom. Again, a Polish company started in 2004 or association with 15 producers. And even when you collected, when you combined only 15 producers, that means still that resulted in something between 80 and 100 tons of mushroom weekly. That's a lot. That's a lot of mushrooms. So you may think, how do I get rid of that much products? They decided to expand. In 2010, there were already almost 40 producers. The amount of production increased, but they also decided to have common investments. So they invested in warehouses, they invested in sorting places, they definitely invested in their international cooperation. They target East, West, and South Europe. So those joint investments allow them to move like almost, like 500 tons of product weekly. So that is effective, and that is also something that like otherwise these products, especially fruit and mushroom, this is perishable, right? You cannot store it forever. You really have to move it quickly. You have to have the right storing conditions. So doing that on your own as a single company, this is a huge responsibility and a huge risk. But once you are in a group of manufacturers, then you share all of these, and you can also afford some smart investments to facilitate the production and sales of these products. That brings us to the third strategy, which is called a Born Global. Have you heard of Born Globals before?
No.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you for answering. Right. So probably once we explain that, you will find out that it is vaguely familiar. Born Global is a company that typically starts as a small endeavor, but contrary to Hidden Champion, their ambition is to be international from the beginning. So they don't want to focus on local production. They don't want to focus on a domestic market. They have higher ambitions, and they want to be global as soon as possible. Born global companies operate in highly globalized industries. So you have to be in the right business. It usually has to do something with digital solutions, with highly innovative products, because that's what is globalized from the very beginning. And they really don't limit themselves to domestic markets. They try to find what is called a global niche. So they try to find a niche or the need that is universal all over the world. Like everybody, regardless your place of residence, you want to have access to this particular product or service or something like this. Born Globals are the companies that achieve majority of their income from abroad within the first 3 years. So with hidden champion, it can take decades before they become internationally present. For born globals, this is a few years top. According to the definition, it has to be 70% of your income of profit that is generated by your operations abroad, and this is what defines a born global. So very quickly, the decision to internationalize and the product that they offer is already fits the need and the preferences of international crowd. So what are the principles here? There are three, let's say, sets of those principles. The first one refers to operations of the company. So we already mentioned that they have to internationalize fast. So that's the first requirement. They also use sprinkler strategy, which means that their expansion takes place to many markets at the same time. They don't go sequentially, one by one, slowly, Uppsala model, and so on. No, they target a group of markets or even the whole world, and they start operating. They open their operations to everyone at the same time. Market selection is based not on convenience, not on proximity geographical in terms of geography. So it doesn't mean that it's not far and it's easy. What they focus is the similar mentality of consumers, which translates to this global niche, to this global need of customers, and the market has to be of a significant size. So they will not go into anything that is too small, and they will try to target customers that have the same mentality, the same need, the same state of mind in terms of using a particular product. They typically display proactive motives, so they don't have to internationalize, but they want to internationalize. They know that there are benefits. They know that there are tax incentives, economic incentives, that they will become recognized, that there is prestige. So all of the proactive motives, not because they are squeezed out of the domestic market. They prefer direct exportation. That means that they skip domestic intermediaries. And in terms of their competition strategy, they have to, this is also a requirement, they have to focus on something that is very high tech, that is very innovative. So it cannot be a low tech solution. It cannot be simple food and I don't know, clothing, like typical clothing. It is usually spiked with technology, and the development is constant. The upgrades are constant, and it has to be very, very high quality and very highly innovative product. Typically, those companies also build close relations with their customers. So they want to have a group of loyal customers, and they want to address the needs of the customers to a close degree. And what is important here is that they want to tap into a network of suppliers, distributors, and buyers. And that means that when we talked about hidden champion, we said, or I said, that they internationalize according to the principles of Uppsala model. Born globals definitely don't. They use the network approach, and that means that they don't have to have all of the resources of their own. They don't have to have all of the distribution network and so on. They will have the right partners that will allow them use their resources, while born globals will contribute with their unique expertise, with their unique skills, competences, and products that they have. They are also very focused on having their own brand, and the brand is supported in foreign markets. So a lot of money has to be devoted to building the brand, supporting, communicating the brand, and they focus on this global market niche, right? So there has to be a niche, there has to be a group of customers that want those highly innovative, high quality, fairly expensive solutions. Marketing tools can be standardized, which is a good thing because it means that it's a savvy approach that costs less money, but you still invest into customer relations, customer service, and customer research to make sure that you understand what your customers want. So marketing is prevalent here, obviously. Nowadays, these are mostly companies that are digitalized, and I think that out of the companies that you provided me with as a result of your last self-study work, many of them actually were born global, especially those that offered like an AI platform that can be used internationally, and they offer some kind of a either guidance or certain solutions and so on. So this is mostly true for digital areas of operation. And last but not least, typically there is a significant role of an owner that is similar to hidden champions, and that means that this owner has a vision, has ambition, has this expertise, or combination of those, or any one of those. And you can probably think of people who became the faces of certain brands, such as Steve Jobs for Apple. He was this charismatic leader that seemed to be pushing the company to move on up to a certain point, of course, right? But because he was so visible and his image was so strong, that also translated onto the brand image for the products that they offer. So these are the principles of Born Globals. And now, what are the advantages of that approach if you operate on international markets? Well, firstly, of course, it is ambitious. You are aiming at the high position in the market. You want to be well known. You want to be successful. You want to be ranked top. You also take advantage of those characteristics of SMEs, which is flexibility, agility, risk taking, flat structure, and this dynamic approach. You also remain in the full control of your sales, of your product, of your branding. You own your brand, so you are the key decision maker here. But the key difference between Born Global and Hidden Champion advantages is that Born Globals have a network. They have a network of cooperating companies, including suppliers, intermediaries, also customers. And that means that the resources are shared. That means that although this is a very, very expensive strategy, some resources and access to them can be shared within the network. So disadvantages here: expensive. It could be probably the disadvantage that we mentioned. Building a strong brand, keeping technology at a high level, making sure that the product is innovative, that requires a lot of money, and that also means that you have to invest constantly into what is done. The profitability comes after some time, again several years. So for a certain time, you really just keep investing and you don't see the profits. So there has to be some patience here. It is a risky strategy because you operate in a highly competitive environment. You focus on a niche, you depend on your partners. So you really have to be constantly on the top of your game. And the product has to be highly innovative. There is no way of you to give yourself a break and stop innovating. Once you do, you lose your edge, you lose your competitive advantage. You no longer are a part of this valuable network. So let me give you two examples. One is going to be archaic, and this is the one. This is Young Digital Planet. I like it because it started in the 90s, and that shows how much vision there was. It was started in 1990s, so a year after Poland regained its economic independence. There were four guys. They had one computer without a hard drive, very little money, and a lot of ideas. So those 35 years ago, they decided that the future is in foreign languages. And that was a time when you wouldn't study that many foreign languages in Poland. The one that was mandatory taught was Russian. Other languages were just add-ons, and we didn't speak those languages fluently. And these guys saw future, and they said, okay, yeah, everybody needs to speak a foreign language. And they started with production of education systems and content that supported teachers, that supported education, supported students with special needs. And they started with CD-ROMs and those like hardware solutions, but then they moved to cloud solutions, to innovative solutions such as e-learning, blended learning, and so on. They started going to international trade shows, showing what they have, showing their systems, showing their products. Large companies, large publishing houses became interested and started providing content that could be used, that could be adapted to those systems. And as you can see, there's a number of publishing houses from different countries. So there is Macmillan Publishing, there is a Disterweg, which is German, SME, which is Spanish, and so on and so on. So they started building very quickly from those international trade shows. They started making connections with partners all over the world, and they became very successful in Europe and mostly in Asia, because these are the regions which are diversified in terms of native languages, and they recognize the need to learn foreign languages. So that's the Young Digital Planet. And this is another company that Poland is very proud of. It is called CD Projekt. Have you heard of CD Projekt before? Are you gaming people
Yeah,
or
of
not?
course I know about CD Projekt.
Oh, you know about
So,
CD. Okay, so there is some
yeah, The
enthusiasm
Witcher,
here.
Cyberpunk.
Okay. So here we go. So that's a Polish company, right? And then they are no longer a small company. They are far from small company. They employ thousands of people, and now they have their headquarters in Warsaw, Wrocław, and also Boston. But interestingly, what you can see, those two guys in the left bottom corner, they are the founders of the company, and the idea for business came for them during high school. Actually, a colleague of mine, a professor at my faculty, at your faculty now, he went to school with these guys, and he said that they always were a little bit weird, right? Now they are in their 50s. So that was a long time ago, and nobody really talked about computers. Nobody really talked about gaming, online gaming, and so on. So that was a weird thing to do. They started with localization services for bigger brands, for bigger producers. Localization means that you have a game that was developed, let's say, in the US. And in order to localize that, you have to translate it and you have to add local context. Because in order to make a game successful, people have to relate to it. Yeah, they have to enjoy the game. They have to enjoy the narrative and characters and so on. So those adaptations are called localization. So this is how they started, with distribution, with localization, and then they developed their first game, which was a success, and that is called The Witcher, right? So there was Witcher 1, Witcher 2, Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt, and then they came up with cyberpunk, right? So The Witcher actually is the most awarded game in the world. They have received, I think, over 1,000 recognitions and awards for various things. So it is extremely successful, and it also shows that they have this like they have experts, they have partners, they have a network of people working on the game. And this is definitely a product that is digitalized, this is accessible worldwide, and this is this global niche, this global need of customers. Interestingly, those two guys were so successful and so impactful, and also they brought recognition to Poland as a country of origin and so on, that they have received the highest award from the Polish president, which is the Medal of the White Eagle. That's for the special services to the country. So that's CD Projekt. They also have this GOG.com service, which is Good Old Games. Well, Good Old Games, that's what it used to be called. Now it is simply GOG.com. And this is a platform where they offer old games which are adapted to your current hardware. And they are available online on the cloud. So once you have an account, you have access to all of these games. You don't have to pay separately for all of them. You have the subscription. It is based on a big amount of trust to the customers, and the games are updated to not local, to current requirements, so that you can keep playing them even though the game was an old title and that was made like 20 years ago. So this is also something that they offer, plus now a multitude of different services. So last May, we had a business visit at CD Projekt, and they showed us their headquarters. They talked to us about their strategy and so on. Now they are expanding their campus. It looks more like Facebook than anything else. But this is a very reputable company that started with a vision of two weird high school colleagues that really believed in something that nobody else believed. So these are my born global companies. And the fourth one that I'm going to show you today is called Anonymous Contractor. And this is a very, very different strategy. This is going to be definitely a no show off strategy, something that is more subdued. And yet, in some cases, for some SMEs, that is fairly successful way of operating and having certain presence in the foreign market. So Anonymous Contractor is a company that cooperates with foreign partners, with international partners. But in fact, what they do is simple processing or manufacturing services. So what really happens is that international company, a foreign partner, commissions some production or some manufacturing to the anonymous contractor company. And then the products which are manufactured are sold with partners brand abroad. So the area of activity of anonymous contractor is focused on manufacturing or processing, and then the international partner takes over and sells the products abroad. That is called a passive entry into a foreign market. Passive because, well, you'll see in a moment. Anonymous contractors don't really look for they don't look for. Jesus, I just lost my train of thought. Okay, doesn't matter. Let me move on. So, what are the principles here? In terms of market entry, you go for indirect or processing export. These are the types of exports. We're going to discuss them at some point, but it basically means that you have a domestic intermediary, or you just focus on those processing and manufacturing aspects, and somebody else is responsible for pushing your product abroad. What you are concerned about is not the selection of the market, but the selection of a partner, because a partner is who is going to be responsible for all internationalization decisions. Market selection, not so much important. This is your partner concern because that's their area of decision making. Your key focus is on the right use and expansion of your production capabilities and on keeping the costs of your operation low so that you remain competitive and an attractive partner. All of the marketing activities abroad are conducted by your international partner. You don't have to worry, you don't have to do anything, which is fairly convenient, but as we will see in a moment, it is also a limiting approach. So what the anonymous contractor does is they find a partner, sign an agreement, and keep manufacturing whatever is to be manufactured. What are the advantages of that approach? Well, it is easy once you have a partner, and it is cheap. You just do what you do, let's say at home, and your product somehow almost miraculously are offered abroad. Obviously, this is no miracle. This is just the activity of your partner, but you yourself are not involved in that. Your offer, your whatever you produce, is adjusted to foreign market needs because that's what your partner is concerned about, right? They make sure that whatever you are commissioned to manufacture is going to be attractive to international audience. It can be a starting point for a more advanced cooperation. That does not happen very often. That would require some initiative on the anonymous contractor side, but it does happen. So I have an example of a company that moved beyond simple anonymous contracting scheme. In short term, there is low risk. You have an agreement signed, and as long as the agreement is in force, you're safe. You are covered. What are the disadvantages? Well, it is a passive way of being present abroad, of being present in international markets. You don't really learn much. You don't get to know your customers. You don't promote your own brand. You remain anonymous as per the name of the strategy, right? So you don't gain an experience, and chances are you will not be able to use it later to your own advantage. Anonymous sales, your brand is non-existent. It's just the name of the company. Nobody knows what you do. So there is no reputation benefit that you can get. In the long term, there are many risks. When your contract expires, you have to prove again that you deliver products with decent quality, with the cost advantage. So that can shift quite easily depending on what is happening generally in the world. Well, finally, last but not least, you don't make much money. You have low negotiating power because what you do is just the beginning of the value added process in the market. Profit per unit is low because you do simple processing or manufacturing. What adds most value is the brand, and you are not the company that puts the brand on the product, right? You do the work, but you don't get the name recognition for it. Okay, this is my example. This is definitely an anonymous contractor. This is the company I can bet everything I have you've never heard about. It's called Mcon. It is a fairly small Polish company, and what they really do is they they make products for big brands such as Burberry, Marc Jacob, FC UK, and so on and so on. Um, and how does that happen? Well, they have contracts. They get the design, they get the fabric from their partners. What their actual skill is, what their unique competence is limited to very highly skilled seamstresses. And a seamstress is a person, in this case, it's actually only women, but it's a person who knows how to use a sewing machine, and they know how to make clothes, right? They know how to use the needle and the thread and so on. So these are the employees of that company are very, very highly skilled in precision, high quality sewing of products, coats mostly, but also dresses, jackets, and so on. So you would never guess that Burberry's products are actually manufactured in Poland and like somewhere in the almost in the countryside. So yeah, so that's the idea of the anonymous contractor, right? Nobody knows about you. Nobody knows about this amazing skill that you have, and you just remain hidden from the international community. You do the essential work because actually making a coat or making a piece of clothing is what is needed, but the partner puts the brand, puts the label, and the partner moves the product and sells it abroad. So 95% of this of production of this company goes to export to other European and non-European countries. A company that operates in that mode but is on the receiving end is IKEA, right? You know that IKEA is a brand, of course. And if you ever had an IKEA product in your hand, and probably you have, because this is a very popular brand among all generations. When you look at the bottom, let's say, of an IKEA glass, it actually says made in where. But you will never find out who the actual producer of that product is. This is IKEA's proprietary knowledge. They have very many cooperators all over the world. The majority of those anonymous contractors that work for IKEA are placed in Russia, not Russia, in China, in Sweden, and in Poland. So Poland is number 3 producer of IKEA products. And the things which are the products which are manufactured in Poland are usually large products such as sofas, armchairs, and so on. And that is because IKEA products are offered in most European countries, and it is simply logistically feasible and affordable to move products from Poland, let's say, to Spain or UK or France, rather than bringing them from China. So China is equally good and even less expensive than Poland, but the logistics for big products works in favor of Poland. So this is kind of like the front end of the whole anonymous contracting network. Yeah. So lots of Polish companies work for IKEA. We only learned about them a few years back when they went on strike because IKEA tightened some requirements due to increasing ecological demands. And those companies rebelled a little bit because they said this is, like too expensive and so on and so on. So this is when we learned, or that this is when I learned about the sheer number of Polish companies working for IKEA, and otherwise they would remain completely anonymous. This is another brand. This is a brand of clothing. It's called Pierre Cardin. This is a brand that started as a high-end brand, and with time, according to the words of the owner, it became more democratic. So it was also offered at other, not only those very high and quality and price combinations, but also to more more regular representatives of the middle class. And Pierre Cardin in the 90s came to Poland, the designer. He saw the Palace of Culture. He fell in love with the brutalist, as he called it, architecture. And he said that yes, Poland is going to be the next destination market. And he started working with many Polish companies who manufactured products that were later labeled with Pierre Cardin brand. And some of these companies are actually big, well-known Polish companies such as Włóczanka or Bytom. But some of them are completely anonymous, completely unknown, and their only activity was limited to cooperation with Pierre Cardin, such as Syntex or Romeo's Bauschy. Okay, and the final example of this cooperation strategy, and this anonymous contracting strategy, and this is the one where it turned into something more. This is a Dutch company that manufactures painting accessories, such as like this wooden frame that you can put your painting on, the actual fabric that is used for painting, and different accessories. And they also accidentally found a partner in Poland when their sales representative got lost, stopped someone by pure accident on the street, asked for direction, received the direction, gave the guy his business card, and the Polish guy actually at some point wrote an email or contacted the company saying, "Hey, if you have any job opportunities, I am ready to work with you." And they decided to give him a chance. So he became this anonymous contractor. He actually his area of expertise was the impregnation of fabric of canvas. Oh, this is called canvas. And because he perfected the impregnation method, he used some special chemicals. He made it safe and effective and durable and all of these things. They decided to promote him in a way that he stopped being just an anonymous contractor. He actually became a proper partner. They established a joint venture, and this particular operation was moved to Poland permanently. And this company kind of like got this promotion from just pure anonymous contractor to a valid and valuable partner that was a part of a joint venture activity. Okay, so that concludes the anonymous contracting. And then we have the last strategy. It is last and definitely least. It is called hit and run. And this is the strategy that no reputable company is going to claim. Nobody is going to say that they have this strategy because it is ethically questionable. And yet, because no market is perfect, it does occasionally exist, and it is not unprofitable. So let me tell you what it means. Hit and run strategy is usually a one-time export transaction that is going to be big in size, low in quality. It is one time because what you offer is a inferior product, is a product that is faulty for some reason or expired or no longer needed. But you still offer it, you sell it, and then you basically have to run away. Nobody I mean, like you escape from all the claims, and you bear no responsibility for the consequences of the client buying your product. So, as I say, this is not a proud strategy. This is a strategy that is not advertised, and yet it happens. So, what are the principles? Um, First of all, where do you go? You go to a place that is not far away, because that keeps the costs at bay. And you go to a place that you haven't been before, because if you've been there before, nobody wants to see you again. You focus on a one-time and highly profitable transaction. You will not be able to keep your business and keep selling the inferior product. You can do it once, and it better be profitable. If you operate on a market of heterogeneous goods, that means that your products have brand, and you can tell who manufactured what, and the quality makes a difference here. In this case, you will use an imitation brand. So, for example, Adidas will be renamed to Adibas. Puma will become Puna or something like this. So there is a small difference in the name. It is misleading, so you can already see the ethical issue. The products are of lower quality. The prices are set below market level, so it seems like a good bargain, but it's not really like a proper good product, right? This is not Adidas shoes. This is not Calvin Klein jeans or Levi's jeans. This is some kind of a counterfeit thing. If you operate on homogeneous good markets like produce, fruit, and so on, again, you offer low quality products, but because nobody can tell who the manufacturer is, that the products are typically not branded, then you set a price at the market level, and you just assume that nobody will see the difference, that nobody will be able to tell that your product is of inferior quality. There are advantages of that strategy. That's why it still exists. It is profitable, right? You get a lot of money in a short term because you basically cheat, right? You basically mislead your customers. It can also help you get rid of what we call unattractive products, the products of quality that will not be acceptable at your domestic market or other markets. So these are the two advantages. As for the disadvantages, um, in the bigger picture, it has an impact on your reputation, on your brand reputation, on your company reputation, and on country of origin reputation. So if it's practiced a lot by companies from a particular country, it may happen that they see this country as a low quality thing. So let's say many years ago, like 10 years ago and more, many Chinese companies would use imitation brands. Imitate um, they would imitate high quality branded names. They would sell those counterfeit products, and that resulted in the reputation that Chinese products are of low quality. So now what is happening, now that China has developed their own technology and they have developed their own brands, now they are working towards establishing good reputation. And now they have to work extra hard to make sure that people believe that Chinese products are of good quality. And it takes extra time, it takes extra effort. And we can see that, well, it is paying off, right? But they have to overcome this poor image that was created by the previous practices. There's very little chance for your long-term presence in foreign markets. Again, you have to hit and run. You cannot linger. You cannot be liable for any harm that your product does, right? So you do what you do, and you escape basically. And finally, it is unethical, right? It is misleading. It is basically cheating your customers, right? So that means that this is a strategy that is not really sustainable in a world that is becoming increasingly transparent. As long as you can hide, it can, let's say, exist. But nowadays we have more and more ways of verifying like who does what and so on, chase the history of companies. So it becomes less and less possible to actually make those big monies. So what examples can we have? As I said, no company is going to proudly say, yes, we do it. You cannot be proud of misleading your customers. So what we hear is like the information that is offered, let's say, by secondary sources and so on. And occasionally you hear that there is this kind of a business problem or a crisis that is caused by those companies. And I have a few examples, like what happened with the Polish companies, at least. Um, the Polish company, as you probably, if you are European, you probably have noticed that there is this um, innovation and wealth expansion coming from the west to the east. So, for example, Polish people at some point would buy old cars from Germany because they were still newer than what we had in Poland, and so on and so on. So it also happened the other way. Polish companies sold cosmetics, sold some food products, meat products to Russia, which means that this is the biggest east market from Poland. And that were the sales that were the products were expired, right? They were past expiration date. So still the Russian market was eager to accept that. They needed those products. It was like the 90s or early 2000s. So they bought the products. But we knew that that was not sustainable because as soon as they realized what we sold, they no longer wanted to do business with us. Okay, and the last example is actually what you can see on the picture above the screen. This is also a case of this hit and run approach, again featuring Poland and Sweden. So there was a Swedish army company or Swedish company that provided food for the army. And they specialized in canned food, so food which was put in those metal cans like tuna or stuff like this. But the food was processed in a special way so that it could be stored for a very long time. And what you can see here is a can with meat. You can see that the can is large. The meat is dry. There is zero water, so you can use it to make food when you are in some kind of like a crisis war situation. But typically you just keep it for the safekeeping, right? It's not really to be eaten at home and so on. So that's kind of like a last resort, the iron reserve that you have. And this Swedish company had plenty of cans with meat that was already past the expiration date. And they offered like a public bidding, and they say, well, whoever pays the highest price, but please remember that this food is not to be consumed by humans. So it can be offered to animals, right? It can be used as animal feed, but it should not be consumed by humans because it is past expiration date. So what happened is that there was a smart Polish company who purchased all of that meat, and then they decided to do the business of their life, and they offered that. They actually won a public procurement process to supply food to, and now focus, because they decided to sell it to prisons, Well, good for the prisoners, right? We don't feel sorry for them. But then hospitals, kindergartens, and schools. So instead of using the product for animal feed, they actually took advantage of the fact that governmental agencies, when they have this public procurement, price has to be low. So they offered the lowest price, and the meat was used to feed the kids, sick people, and people in prisons, so all public institutions. And that turned out to be a big scandal, and there was a huge backlash. And of course, the company changed the name, changed the area of their operation, and basically tried to move past that particular thing. But you can see what's the hit and run principle here, right? You make a big profit out of something that is borderline unethical, and you disappear from the market, right? So this is definitely not a sustainable strategy. You cannot display your name, but still you can make some money. So that is the last strategy of those successful SME strategies in foreign markets. And as I said at the beginning of this class, I am asking you to pick a company that will be the subject of your project that will be close to one of these strategies. From what I saw in your proposals, you seemed to have leaned towards hidden champion or born global. But of course, you still have time, actually 2 weeks, to make a final decision. But this is kind of like the strategy that we're aiming for. And I'm not asking you to find the actual global or a hidden champion, but a company that you believe that has similarities, that is to some extent similar to one of those strategies, because that's what helps them being successful in the international markets. So the last thing for today that I'm going to show you, that I'm going to discuss with you in the upcoming 20 minutes or so, is the decision to start operations in foreign markets. And actually, I'm going to present to you a few strategies that lead companies to be present in foreign market. These are not operation strategies, but they're going to be internationalization strategies. So let me start briefly with the need. Why do companies want to expand their operations? And in general, it comes from the let's say the implementation of the marketing strategy. So these ideas and methods of using resources and market opportunities to achieve long-term goals. And what often happens is that there is a discrepancy between what we strategize, what we plan, and what we actually achieve. And this negative difference is called a strategic planning gap. And the strategies that I'm going to show to you, they're going to help the company to make sure that the strategic gap is closed, so that we achieve the goals, the sales goals that we planned for. So if we are to put it in a graphic form, this is the desire, this is the upper line, then the lower one is the reality. So these are your actual sales, the actual income that you achieve, and the discrepancy, the difference between the two, is the strategic planning gap. So the companies have many tools to close the gap, to make sure that they achieve the planned income or the planned sales volume. And this is represented by what we call Ansoff matrix. And these strategies can apply either to domestic or international market. The blue part is what is applicable to the domestic market. So you can still become purely domestic, you can be purely domestic, and you can still increase your sales or your income. But at some point, you can decide to internationalize and you can decide to go abroad. And this is when you employ those yellow strategies. So let me briefly show you what the strategies are, what are the principles and how it is going to operate. And at the end of the class, I'm going to tell you what is going to be your next task for the next week, because that is going to be based on all of those. So here we go. We're starting with the blue set of strategies. So development strategies for the domestic market. The first one is called market penetration. And that means that you keep offering the same product to the same market, but you want to sell more. Is it possible? Well, yes, it is. What you really have to do, you have to convince your customers to use more of the product or to use the product in a different way. Or you can employ various promotion and distribution activities. You can open new channels of distribution, for example, an online channel, move to e-commerce. Or you can offer intensive advertising, or you can offer price discounts, right? These are all the elements that that push domestic customers to buy more of your products. How do you encourage people to use more of your product? Well, there are ways of doing that. You can teach them, you can show them, you can try and convince them that there is a right way of using a product. For example, TikToks. If you've seen an advertisement of TikTok candy, they always take two. You never take a single TikTok, you use two TikToks. That means that you run out of TikToks much quicker, right? Toothpaste. If you see a commercial of people using toothpaste, they typically put like a lot of it on a toothbrush so that it looks nice. But we all know that this is not how much you need, right? In fact, you need equivalent of a like less than a bean, right? Like a green pea size of toothpaste, and this is enough to brush your teeth. But the companies still show that you should use more, and that basically translates into using more of the product. The same with the shampoo. If you read the description on the bottle, it says that for ideal results, you have to wash your hair twice, but the second time you're washing clean hair. So it gives you this nice feeling, but it's absolutely unnecessary in terms of the hygienic purposes. This is the case of the spread, like a cheese spread. You can see how much is put on the bread. This is way more than we typically use, but it kind of like teaches customers how to use the product. And then finally, you can try and convince people that they can use the product differently. Coke is an example of that. Of course, it's a refreshment. It's a drink. It's a soft drink. But some people believe that this is good for your stomach. So if you have stomach ache, then you can drink some Coke. Some people believe that it is good for rusty elements because it cleans the rust. So there are those alternative, not fully official uses of Coke that kind of like allow people to use more. Some of those alternative uses become official. For example, baking soda. Baking soda is obviously used for baking. But then the company realized that many people used baking soda as a refreshener in fridges because it apparently absorbs odor and stuff. So they, after some time, they believed and they started making those air refresheners based on baking soda. So there was yet another use of the product that allowed the company to sell more. Okay, the second strategy is product development. So you stay at the same market, which means that you offer the product to the same group of customers, but you modify the product. And you can either improve it, which means that the product is better. You can modify it, which means that the product is different. And you can innovate, which means that this is a new technology used. So as you can imagine, improvement is what makes an actual difference. Innovation, maybe, but modification is just kind of like a perception game because it doesn't mean that it's either newer or better, it's just different, right? But still, it means that some customers are, let's say, convinced to try a new product, and you can sell a little bit more of the product to the same group of customers. Then we have market development. And in this case, you keep the same product or the same service, but you target a different group of customers. So you make no changes to the product, which is smart, as the product modifications are the most expensive, but you look for a different group of customers. And this is the example of mobile phones that, or mobile phone services, which is basically calling and texting. Initially, the mobile phones were offered to business people because these were the people who can afford it. But as the market got saturated, the companies moved towards different so toward different segments, offering slight modification of the form, but the key service remained the same. So we have mobile phones for elderly customers, which are much simpler, with bigger letters, let's say. We have phones for kids, which are more fun, more colorful, or more, let's say, safe and kind of like heavy duty in terms of form. But as to the basic service, it is exactly the same, right? You have a SIM card, you can call, you can receive calls, you can text, but the companies change the segments and started offering the products in more and more segments. And finally, the last strategy on the domestic market without going abroad is called diversification, and that means that you enter a new area, a new a new field of operations, but you can either offer a very new product to the same group of customers, which means kind of like Gillette did, right? Gillette started with shaving razors for men, and then they went with a new product to a new segment, which is women. In fact, we know that the novelty is basically the shape and the color. There is a synergy of technology here, but the way the product is used is different, right? So that was a new segment and a new product in their opinion. Some joke that we're going to start offering shaving needs to kids as well. But then the company moved to produce shaving foam, aftershave, and so on. So in this case, we have a customer synergy because we're going into cosmetics industry, which is different, but it's complementary to what is offered, to what was offered initially. And in some cases, companies go completely into a different area of operation. They diversify by going into a very different industry, but that means that this is a new business opportunity, and this is a new area that they are discovering. So, for example, if Faculty of Management decided to open a farm for chickens, that would be a diversification, right? A very different customer, a very different technology, but probably it could be profitable. So, as for the international markets, there are also 4 strategies which follow similar logic. But the difference is that you no longer stay at your domestic market. You move to international market and you will look for customers which are similar or different from what you have at home. So let's see the first case. Simple internationalization means that you offer the same product and your foreign customers are the same as domestic customers. Still, you start selling your product abroad. And this is the example. Hellmann's is a foreign brand. They decided at some point that they will enter Polish market. They changed the name, so this is Grandma's Mayo, but it is used by the same group of customers in the same way, right? It is still a condiment, it is still food, so you put it on a sandwich or anything, and it means that it's the same product, and the group of your foreign customers is exactly the same as the group of your domestic customers. Another example that I have is alcohol in this case, and that means that it is a pure export, right? The product remains unchanged. It's the same group of customers that will use the product abroad, but you become internationalized. Then the second approach is product internationalization. And that means that you keep the same group of customers. So customers abroad are exactly the same as those home, but you modify the product. You have to change the product a little bit because that's what your foreign customers want. And the examples that I have are the following. Pampers. Pampers, they make baby diapers, right? This is an American company and they expanded internationally, like they think, okay, babies all over the world have similar needs and they need diapers. So when they went to a Japanese market, and Japanese market was very receptive, they liked American products, but the diapers did not fully meet product market needs. The diapers had to be made smaller because Japanese babies were smaller initially than especially very young newborns. They needed smaller size diapers, so that has to be modified. And then they apparently color code their kids, and they needed blue for boys and pink for girls. So the diapers also had to be color coded, while typically in the US and European markets, they are all greenish in color. Another example is gasoline. Gasoline is offered by well-known global brands, and yet depending where geographically the gasoline is sold, apparently there is a difference to the product. The product is adjusted, for example, to low or high temperature so that it remains safe and that it has the same properties as like all over the world, right? So this is product internationalization when you modify the product, but it's offered to the same customers in various markets. Then we have market internationalization. And that means that, contrary to the previous strategy, you keep the product unchanged, but you target different segments of customers in each country. And let me show you two examples. One is a bicycle that is used differently in different countries. In some countries, like the Netherlands, that's just a typical means of city transportation, while in the US, it's more for like endurance and long distance and kind of like sport use. While in India and Vietnam, this is like a basic transportation for people that is used, and it's considered to be simply the cheapest, right? So the same product, but it is used differently by people in different countries. An interesting case is a case of a camera that you can see here. This is a sample picture, but this is the actual case here. There was a company that created this digital camera, this SLR camera, and they defined three distinct markets. It was Japan, US, and Europe in general. And as you can see, the target market was different in each region. In Japan, that was young consumers that were buying their second camera, so what we call a restitution demand. In the US, that was for customers buying their first camera, and the customers that were more affluent. And in Europe, it was typically for older and more technology technologically advanced consumers that bought their second or third camera. So consumers with experience, right? And that translated into very different marketing mix, except the product. The product stayed the same. But as you can see, there was a different advertising appeal used. So you focused on different benefits offered by the product. You use different media. It was sold in different distribution channels. And finally, you can see that the price was very much different. It was the cheapest in the US, in Japan, where they sold it for $290, while in the US it was sold for $430. So there was a significant increase in price. In Europe, it was different in each country, but something between those two levels. So the same product, but different group of customers in each country, which resulted from technological advancement and an experience of customers in those markets. So finally, the last thing that we have, the last strategy, is a full internationalization strategy. And that means that you come up with a new product, a product that will be international, will be global from the very beginning, and you target a new global customer group. You create something that is going to be offered beyond borders, so that's very similar to the Born Global approach. And it's often done with high-tech products, with digital products. When you decide to create like either like Linux, which is the operation system that is co-developed by a special group of users and customers at the same time, or the other example that we have here is a smartwatch, which again is a new product offered. This one is actually an Apple Watch, right? So that was created by Apple company, and it was distinct from what they had before, and that was offered to a global customer group. It was never limited to actual American market or any geographic market. So that concludes today's speech on my side with surprisingly, let's say, quiet participation on your side. So let me tell you what is ahead of you right now, because there are some announcements that I have to make. So as you may realize from what is offered in campus, and I'm going to go and show you that on campus platform, next week is called a self-study week, right? Which means that again, you are left with a task of your own, and I would like to show you this task and just make sure that you have it completed in a manner that will be helpful to you in the near future. Okay, so I'm going to open. I am going to open the campus platform. Okay, I'm switching my role to student so that you can see it the way I see it, or I can see it the way you see it. Here we go. Okay, can you see the website? I can see Francesco nodding. Thank God that there is some vision here. Okay, so you can see it, right? If not, let me know.
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you, Leo. Okay, so as you can see, this is the last self-study thing, and I do admit it is because of my business trips and my responsibilities as the Vice Dean for Internationalization. I do apologize, and I will improve next time we see each other. So you have already the presentation and the recording from the first class. I am going to put the recording of this class as well. You did the task for the second class, which was finding hidden champions. And I must say that in general, you have succeeded. But now I'm going to put this today's presentation and recording here. And there is a self-study session that you have time to do over the next 2 weeks. The sooner you start, the better. Deadline is November 19th, which is Wednesday. So in this case, I would like you to use this task sheet that I provided here. There is description, and this assignment is actually a part of your final project. So if you do it well, and I give you comments on it, part of your job will be already done for the final project. So the key decision that you have to make is you have to select the company that will be the subject of your project. You have to select the company, and I do strongly suggest that this is a company that fits either the Born Global or Global Champion strategy. It has to be a small company. It should be a company that offers something on B2B market, so to regular consumers, not to other companies. And it has to be small. So the worksheet that you can see here, I'll see if you can actually see it when I open. Can you see it when I open it, or do I have to change my sharing options?
It's not available yet. We don't see.
Okay, you don't see. Okay, thank you for that. All right, so this is the task sheet. Can you see that now?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. So that's the place to put the name of your company. This is the checklist. Is it small? Does it operate on business to consumer market? Does it offer a tangible product? Is it not internationalized? So does it have the potential for the project? And then there is a number of questions that refer to this company of your choice. And these are the questions that touch on the theoretical aspects that we have discussed or that I have presented during this presentation and the previous class. So I'm asking you about the international expansion decisions. I'm asking you about internationalization model. I'm asking you about the reasons to internationalize. We also discussed that, right? What risks may be involved, what international application is best applicable and why. So for each of these decisions, I want you to look at your company and decide what could the company do in terms of internationalization? What is their internal philosophy? What could be the benefits and the motives to start operation abroad? And give me a brief justification for that. The last question is about the matrix that I discussed, the strategies of development strategies in domestic and international markets. So I also would like you to make a decision which of these strategies would be most suitable for your company. So in order to answer these questions, you really have to find the company, you have to see what they do, and you have to decide what are the next steps for internationalization that should be undertaken. And that will be followed up by the rest of your project. So this is the big decision that is here ahead of you. So are there any questions? Is that clear for now before you actually start doing that? Is there anything, any kind of explanation that you need on my side that would be helpful here? No questions yet, right? Okay, so you know the teams, you know where you are, you made the connections. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now.